Hello everyone. Today I am going to deal with a topic that is quantum mechanics and its basic principles. So quantum mechanics. What actually is quantum mechanics? What are its applications? All these things come into picture or can be understood only when we know about its basic principle, how it is going to work. So generally quantum mechanics, we know that it is going to deal with the subatomic particles, as you can see in the picture number 2. Again, hydrogen atom, its wave function, energy, etc. And in the picture number 3 you can observe the transformation of the structure of atoms into sound. So all these phenomena and many more phenomena are studied in the regime of quantum mechanics. So let us start with the most basic thing, that is the classification of physics. Broadly, physics can be divided into 3 classes. First is classical physics, second is relativistic physics, third is quantum physics. Under classical physics, we generally study classical mechanics. And classical mechanics is a mathematical science where the displacement of bodies under the action of forces are studied. And under that, generally we study the Lagrangian mechanics, Newtonian mechanics, thermodynamics, rigid bodies, central force field, etc. Then under relativistic physics, we can use the frames of reference just to relate the motion or the theories of relativity. All these things are coming under relativistic physics. Then coming to the third class, that is quantum physics. Under this we study quantum mechanics, quantum chemistry, quantum field theory, quantum technology and lots more. So what was the need for this quantum physics evolution, or what made the scientists or physicists to find out the concept of quantum physics? There has to be some reason, which is nothing but the limitation of the classical physics. So the Newtonian mechanics, whichever is studied under classical mechanics, it just failed to explain the phenomena at microscopic length scale. And again, different effects like photoelectric effect, black body radiation, then quantum tunneling, atomic spectra, all these things were not explained by classical physics. And that's why there was a need for quantum physics to come into picture. So by early 20th century, quantum mechanics provided a mathematical description of microscopic phenomena in complete agreement with our empirical knowledge whichever we had of all non-relativistic phenomena. So all the mathematical background for the empirical knowledge which was there was given by using quantum mechanics in 20th century, that is almost in 1920s or 1926, where the quantum mechanics just evolved. And what actually is quantum mechanics? So we can just define quantum mechanics as a fundamental theory in physics which deals with the study of motion at the level of atoms and subatomic particles. So generally whenever we say quantum mechanics or quantum physics, we think it is applied for microscopic levels. But the thing to remember is it is not just for like atoms, electrons, atomic size, etc. But quantum physics is applied for all, like human bodies, galaxies and the whole universe. But why generally we say quantum physics is applicable for microscopic level? Because the manifestation of quantum mechanics becomes dramatic as the size goes on decreasing. And again, if the system becomes dynamic, then again it is going to be more dramatic in nature. And that's why generally one thinks that quantum mechanics applies just for microscopic level, but actually it is applicable for all. So quantum mechanics is applied everywhere in the daily life, like for example conduction, magnetism, propagation of sound, etc. So the main persons or influential people of quantum mechanics were Erwin Schrödinger. As you can see, Erwin Schrödinger was the main person who gave the Schrödinger equation, which is the most important equation and it is applicable everywhere in quantum mechanics. And again, the concept of wave function collapse using the Schrödinger cat experiment was given by Schrödinger itself. Then another main person is Paul Dirac, then Heisenberg, that is Werner Heisenberg, Max Planck, Niels Bohr, Max Born, Feynman, Pauli and many more. So these are the main or influential figures of quantum mechanics who laid the main foundation for quantum physics. So how to study quantum mechanics? So the framework in which quantum mechanics is discussed is highly mathematical. But it is not so complex, it is very elementary mathematics. So instead of phase space, whatever we use, here in quantum mechanics, we use linear vector space. So it is a very elementary mathematics. So what actually is linear vector space, we need to know. So if we say V is a vector space, then it contains two sets of elements. One is the vector set and another one is scalars or set of scalars. So some operations are taking place between these two sets, and if they obey certain properties or laws, then it forms a vector space. So a vector space can be said as a set of elements known as vectors which may be added or multiplied by scalars in such a way that they obey certain properties. The first one is the operation yields only the elements of V. That is, you might be doing multiplication or addition of any two vectors using a scalars also, but when you do or perform that operation, it leads to a new product. But that result, again, it should be present in the set V, that is in vector space. Then this law is called as closure law. This is the first operation which it has to obey in order to become a linear vector space. Then second is based on the operation, that is addition and scalar multiplication should obey certain rules. First one is vector Vi plus vector Vj is equals to vector Vj plus vector Vi. So this is nothing but the commutative law. Second, vector Vi plus vector Vj plus vector Vk is equals to vector Vi plus vector Vj plus vector Vk. So this is nothing but a associative law. Then comes identity law. That is, there exists a null vector such that vector 0 plus vector Vi is equals to vector Vi plus vector 0 is equals to vector Vi itself. So a null vector is a vector when it is added to any vector, it yields back the same vector itself. So this is nothing but the identity property. The next property is inverse property or inverse law. So for each vector Vi, there exists an inverse vector minus Vi in the vector space such that when you add both the vectors, that is Vi plus minus Vi, that is the inverse of it, it will give you the null vector. that is vector 0. So this is the inverse property. So some scalar multiplication laws, like here A is a scalar, A into vector Vi plus vector Vj is equals to A into Vi, A into vector Vi plus A into vector Vj. Then next is, I have used alpha and beta as the scalars. So alpha plus beta into vector Vi is equals to alpha into vector Vi plus beta into vector Vi. Then multiplication. Alpha into beta into Vi is equals to alpha into beta into vector Vi. So these are some of the properties that has to be obeyed if the vector has to be a linear vector space. So this is in general. So how it is going to change, or the notations are going to change with respect to quantum mechanics, let's see. And the point to remember is the domain of all allowed scalars is known as field over which the vector space V is defined. So next, with respect to quantum mechanics, here we just use vectors as wave functions. So linear vector space contains a set of elements known as vectors or else wave functions, such as this notation is called as ket vector notation. So we read it as ket xi, ket phi, ket xi, ket chi, etc. belonging to the linear vector space, which obeys some rules like, or operations, when operations are done like addition and multiplication, defined with again set of scalars such as alpha, beta, gamma, etc., which again belongs to field. So this is the slight difference with respect to the general vector space, that is vectors we are using as a wave functions. Again, wave functions, we use the ket notation. In quantum mechanics, generally we use bracket notation. If we use a bra notation, then the vector is coming as a complex. It might become a complex conjugate, but generally we use a ket notation for representing the wave function. So the operations or the laws again here has to be obeyed. First one is ket xi plus ket phi is equals to ket phi plus ket xi, which is the commutative law. Second is ket xi plus ket phi plus ket chi is equals to ket xi plus ket phi plus ket chi. So this is the associative law. Then alpha plus beta, these two are the scalars, into ket xi is equals to alpha into ket xi plus beta into ket chi. This is something like a distributive. Next is alpha into ket xi plus ket phi is equals to alpha ket xi plus alpha ket phi. Next is again the identity property, that is there exists again a null vector, or even you can represent as ket 0, such that again when the operation is done you get back the same wave function itself. The next property is the inverse property. There exists ket, for every ket xi there exists an inverse of it, that is minus ket xi, again in the same vector space, such that when you add the wave function with the inverse of it, you will get a null vector. So these are the operations or the laws which need to be obeyed by certain set of elements for it to become a linear vector space. So what are the examples? So the examples for linear vector space are R, that is nothing but set of real numbers. Again, set of real numbers raised to power n. N is nothing but the natural numbers. So these form the linear vector space. You can take the example of set of real numbers, then use certain scalars and just try to match all the properties, and it is going to obey all the properties given above. That's why it is going to form a linear vector space. Again, certain differential equations like d square x by dt square plus omega square into x is equals to 0, their solutions, again they are going to form linear vector space. So these are certain examples for linear vector space. So certain things you need to remember in studying quantum mechanics is, if you consider three-dimensional space, that is using the coordinate system, and then we are representing a vector A, let E1 cap be a unit vector along x-axis, E2 cap be the unit vector along y-axis, and E3 cap be the unit vector along z-axis. This is used for explaining the vector A along all the three dimensions. So these E1, E2, E3 are known as bases, or they form the basis. Then when they are perpendicular to each other, that's why as they are perpendicular to each other, it is called as an orthonormal basis. Then to denote the vector A with respect to the unit vectors and the magnitude along xyz axis, we define the vector A as A1 into E1 cap plus A2 into E2 cap plus A3 into E3 cap. Here A1, A2, A3 are just the magnitudes along all the three coordinate axes which the vector A is making with it, and E1, E2, E3 are the unit vectors along XYZ axis respectively. So when we are going to study about quantum mechanics with respect to the two vectors, we generally explain about the inner product. If we are taking A and B as two different vectors, then the inner product is nothing but A dot B. So A dot B is nothing but AB cos theta, which is again given as, if you know what is vector A, what is vector B, and theta is not defined, then A dot B is nothing but A1 B1 plus A2 B2 plus A3 B3. So inner product, we represent it inside the bracket and the two vectors separated by a comma. So this A1 B1 plus A2 B2 plus A3 B3 can be written as summation of AI BI. I runs from 1 to 3 because just 3 coordinate axes we have used here. So this is the inner product in general. But if let us say the vectors are having complex numbers in it, then the inner product will be, the inner product of vector A and vector B will be equal to summation of AI star BI. Whenever you are explaining about inner product, the vector on the left side, it will be having, means for the inner product we need to take the complex conjugate of it. So this is the rule you need to remember. Then certain simple properties or equations which will help for further studies is inner product of the same vector, that is vector A with vector A, will be equal to summation of A star into A, which is equals to summation of square of magnitude of A. Then we define norm of a vector, and norm of a vector is given as the square root of inner product of the vector itself, and the vector is said to be normalized if the norm of the vector is equals to 1. So this is the condition. Then orthogonality. If the inner product of the two vectors, inner product of vector A and vector B is equal to 0, then it is forming a orthogonal set. Next point, let us say A1, vector A1, A2, A3, all these form an orthonormal set. But when it will be forming? If and only if the inner product of these vectors is equals to Kronecker delta, that is delta ij, and this delta ij is equals to 1 only when I is equals to j, and if I is not equal to j, then it is going to vanish. So these are certain points or the principles which are to be remembered if you are going to study quantum mechanics. So this is about the basic or introduction to quantum mechanics as well as linear vector space. So in my next video, I will be discussing about eigenvalues, eigenfunctions and operators. Thank you.